Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod, and it's IEP season, and it's a very stressful time for everyone, whether you're a teacher, a school administrator, or a parent. It is a stressful time. Everybody needs to have an IEP, and so the school is cycling through all of them, and they have so much to consider and so much to do, and of course there's no funding for anything. And as parents, we're stressed about it because for us, it's everything, right? You're trusting the school, you're taking your child to school, and you want to know over the summer that your child's year next year is going to be a wonderful, productive, happy, safe environment where your child is actually accessing the curriculum and doing the things that are important for your individual child, right? And sometimes it feels like a battle. Well, there are some things that you can do ahead of time as a parent to help yourself and to prepare for an IEP so that it doesn't have to be as big of a battle and that things will go smoother at the IEP and that the process of signing the IEP and getting what your child actually needs will be smoother. And from time to time in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about what some of those individual things that we can do to help ourselves are. But today I really want to focus on what I think is one of the most important things that you need to do for yourself at an IEP meeting, and that is to tape record it. And you have the ability to bring a tape recorder, but you must notify the school in writing. And in some states, it's 24 hours before, and in some states, it's 48 hours before. So I always like to say, be on the safe side and let them know at least 72 hours before in writing. And we had the wonderful Bonnie Z. Yates, who's a special education attorney, on the show a couple of weeks ago. We need to have her back on again. We will have her back on again. You just saw her son a second ago, Nick Yates. He recovered from autism. Who better to be at the helm of special education and fighting for us than a mom who went through this with her child successfully? So one of the questions I asked Bonnie was, is it okay if we email that we want to tape record the session? And she said, email is great because we can keep a record of it. It's in writing. It's a wonderful way to communicate with our administrators. So I encourage you to let them know. You can even tell them on the day that you sign, they're going to send you an invitation to your child's IEP and ask you to attend. And on the date you sign that and give them back to them, just save yourself the worry and the time later on. Just send them an email then and say to them, by the way, we will be bringing a tape recorder to the IEP. When you do that, and I know a lot of people say, oh, but then they know you're going to be a problem. Well, you know what? If that's the case, then you want to be a problem. I'm sorry, but if they're going to get all tense about the fact that you're going to bring a tape recorder, you need to have the tape recorder. And the tape recorder is great for a lot of different reasons. And by the way, when you say that you're going to bring a tape recorder, usually the school will say, we also are going to bring a tape recorder, so that there's no confusion about anybody. This tape doesn't match this tape. Should you have to go to court, you will have your version of the tape and they will have their version of the tape. It's also a thing that I think the school likes to have it so that if you reference something and say, at 12 minutes into the IEP, this person said this, then you don't have to get them a copy. The school can listen to the tape and say, yes, you're right, they did. I have never heard of a tape recorder being something that works against a prepared parent. Notice that I said a prepared parent. Okay, so there are mostly only benefits to having the tape recorder in there. Yes, the school is probably going to bring their tape recorder as well. Don't be worried about that. That's a really good thing. The only thing that could potentially be a negative about bringing the tape recorder in is if you in any way lose it and become belligerent and are yelling at people or threatening violence or anything like that. But you're not going to do that anyway. I know that sometimes you feel as though it's warranted, but you're not going to do that. And especially if you've brought the tape recorder in, you have the peace of mind that your child's rights are going to be protected because anything that gets said in that meeting is going to be appropriate. Because if it's not, you are automatically going to win at court. So the tape recorder can be your bulldog. You you don't need to be belligerent. We all know the phrase that you get more flies with honey than you do with vinegar, right? And that is certainly true with the IEP. I like to think that I can set that tape recorder on that table and I can be somebody who is only focused on saying what is appropriate for my child. And that's my big word always at an IEP, what's appropriate. That's what the law states that my child gets, is what's appropriate. It's what I want, what's appropriate, and I want everyone to behave in an appropriate way. And that tape recorder ensures that either that happens or we're going to win at court. So whenever parents will call me frequently and they'll say, okay, I went to my IEP and this is what got said. And I always think, well, I've heard it all. I've absolutely heard it all. And then somebody calls me and says something. I go, you're kidding me. They actually said that in an IEP? You had a tape recorder running, right? And it's always when somebody has said something outlandish that the parent says, no, you know what? I didn't bring the tape recorder because. I have never heard of anybody saying anything outlandish in an IEP when a tape recorder was going. So immediately it sets a tone in the meeting. And I have been a classroom teacher and I have been at IEP meetings, and on the other side of the table, people behave themselves. If there's a tape recorder, you have to behave yourself. So it cuts a lot of the you-know-what out if the tape recorder is there. So have the tape recorder. It's really going to help you. And the other thing that I want to leave you with today for IEPs is that never, ever, ever sign the IEP at the meeting. Always give yourself, there's a place where you sign saying that you attended, but always give yourself at least 48 hours to take the IEP home, go over it. If you have somebody in the family that's an attorney, or you're working with an attorney or an advocate, happen at the meeting. There's a lot of emotion. Take the time to be able to do that. You will notice sometimes that in the IEP, it doesn't actually say what got said at the meeting. Somebody said, oh, well, we're going to be offering you this, but you look at the paper and the paper doesn't reflect that. Well, the good news is that you have it on the tape recorder. So it gives you time to go home and look at what's actually on the paper and then be able to come back and say, I re-listened to the IEP. I looked at what's on the paper. One of the things that we talked about was this, and this. It's not on the IEP. Can we get this put in on the IEP? And you're usually going to find that if you're able to say, no, we talked about that and I have it on the tape recording, and you say it in a very nice way, not adversarial at all, you'll find that they're very amenable to putting it on. If it's on the tape and if it got talked about and it's not on the paper, they're going to want to put it on the paper. It's going to behoove them and save them a whole lot of money in court costs to do that. So having those two things in mind, that's going to help you to have a much easier time at your IEP. You're going to be able to relax knowing that no matter what happens at this meeting, I have a record of it because I've got that tape. They have those digital tape recorders now that can do up to 6 hours, because sometimes the IEP meeting is 6 hours, right? I think there's some that even do 8 to 10 hours, more expensive ones. If you don't have one, go to your local support group and say, does anybody have a digital tape recorder? I'm guaranteeing you someone does. So if going and buying a digital tape recorder right now is more than you can afford, and I know that's a lot of us, right? Ask, can I borrow yours to go to this IEP meeting? It's a download that goes right onto the computer, and it's easy enough to do. But don't go without one, right? Go with a tape recorder. It's peace of mind and knowing that everyone is going to behave like a professional. And you're going to behave that way too. And don't sign it at the IEP.